I sat in my dark apartment, staring at the phone as it rang for what felt like the 100th time that day. I had lost count of the number of times I had tried to reach out to my son, Jack, over the years. He had ignored me, blocked my number, and changed his address. I had almost given up hope of ever hearing from him again. But then, the voice on the other end of the line was one I hadn't heard in 9 long years. It was Jack, and he sounded different, more confident, but there was a hint of desperation in his voice. He told me that he had been following my life from afar and had heard about the $300,000 settlement I had won. He wanted to know why I hadn't contacted him, why I hadn't shared the news with him. I was taken aback by his questions, but I tried to remain calm and explain the situation. I told him that I had been trying to reach out to him for years, but he had ignored me, blocked my number, and changed his address. He listened quietly, and for a moment, I thought I had gotten through to him. But then he dropped a bombshell. He wanted to meet up and discuss the settlement. I was hesitant at first, but something about his tone put me at ease. I agreed to meet him, and we set a date and time. As I hung up the phone, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. But I pushed the feeling aside and focused on the possibility of reuniting with my son. I spent the next few days preparing for our meeting, trying to gather my thoughts and emotions. I had so many questions for him, so many things I wanted to say. But as the day of our meeting approached, I couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation. What did Jack really want from me? Was he genuinely interested in reconnecting, or was there something more to it? I pushed the thoughts aside and focused on the present moment. I was about to see my son after 9 long years, and I was determined to make the most of it. But little did I know, our meeting would set off a chain of events that would change my life forever. As the day of our meeting approached, I found myself getting increasingly anxious. I had so many questions for Jack, so many things I wanted to say. But what if he didn't want to listen? What if he just wanted to confront me about the settlement? I tried to push the thoughts aside and focus on the present moment. I was about to see my son after 9 long years, and I was determined to make the most of it. I spent hours getting ready, making sure I looked my best. I even cooked his favorite meal, just in case he wanted to come over and talk. Finally, the day arrived. I waited nervously at the restaurant, sipping on a cup of coffee and trying to calm my nerves. Jack was late, but I didn't expect anything less. He had always been a bit reckless, a bit impulsive. As I waited, I couldn't help but think about the past. About the way things used to be between us. About the way he used to look up to me, about the way I used to be his hero. But all of that had changed when his mother left us. When she walked out on us without even saying goodbye. Jack had been devastated, and I had tried my best to be there for him. But I had failed, and he had turned against me. I had tried to reach out to him over the years, but he had ignored me. Blocked my number, changed his address. I had almost given up hope of ever seeing him again. But now, here I was, waiting for him at a restaurant. Waiting to see if he would even show up. And then, just as I was starting to lose hope, I saw him. He walked in, looking confident and self-assured. He scanned the room, his eyes locking onto mine. For a moment, we just stared at each other. I could see the tension in his body, the anger in his eyes. But I also saw something else, something that gave me hope. I saw a glimmer of curiosity, a spark of interest. He wanted to know what I had to say, what I had to offer. I stood up, trying to smile. "Hey, Jack," I said, trying to sound casual. "It's been a long time." He nodded, his eyes never leaving mine. "Yeah," he said. "It has." We sat down, the tension between us palpable. I could feel the weight of our past bearing down on us, the weight of our unresolved issues. But I was determined to make things right. I was determined to reconnect with my son, to make him see that I was still his father. "So," I said, trying to break the ice. "How have you been? What have you been up to?" Jack shrugged, his eyes darting around the room. "I've been okay," he said. "Just working, trying to make a living." I nodded, trying to show interest. "That's great," I said. "I'm proud of you. But Jack just laughed, a bitter sound. "You don't even know me," he said. "You don't know what I've been through." I felt a pang of guilt, a pang of regret. I had failed him, failed to be there for him when he needed me most. But I was determined to make things right. I was determined to reconnect with my son, to make him see that I was still his father. "Let's start over," I said, trying to sound sincere. "Let's start fresh. I want to get to know you, Jack. I want to be a part of your life." Jack raised an eyebrow, his eyes narrowing. "Why now?" he asked. "Why after all these years?" I took a deep breath, trying to explain. "I've been thinking a lot about my life," I said. "About my mistakes. And I realized that I made a mistake with you, Jack. I wasn't there for you when you needed me most." Jack snorted, a dismissive sound. "You think that's all it takes?" he asked. "A simple apology, a few words of regret?" I felt a surge of anger, a surge of defensiveness. But I pushed it aside, trying to stay calm. "I'm not expecting forgiveness," I said. "I'm not expecting anything. I just want to try, Jack. I want to try to make things right." Jack looked at me, his eyes searching. For a moment, I thought I saw a glimmer of hope, a spark of interest. But then his face hardened, his eyes narrowing. "I'll listen," he said. "But I'm not promising anything." I nodded, trying to show understanding. "I don't expect anything," I said. "I just want to talk, Jack. I want to reconnect with you." And with that, we started talking. We talked about our past, about our mistakes. We talked about our hopes and dreams, about our fears and regrets. As we talked, I could feel the tension between us dissipating. I could feel the weight of our past bearing down on us, but I could also feel a sense of hope, a sense of possibility. Maybe, just maybe, we could start over. Maybe, just maybe, we could reconnect and move forward. But as the night wore on, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. That Jack was hiding something from me, that he had an ulterior motive for meeting me. I tried to push the thoughts aside, but they lingered in the back of my mind. What did Jack really want from me? What was he hiding? And then, just as we were finishing up, Jack dropped a bombshell. A bombshell that would change everything, that would make me question everything. "I want the settlement," he said, his eyes glinting. "I want the $300,000. I felt a surge of shock, a surge of anger. What was he talking about? Why did he think he deserved the settlement? But before I could even react, Jack stood up, his eyes flashing. "I'll be back," he said. "And I'll get what's mine." And with that, he turned and walked away, leaving me stunned and confused. What had just happened? What did Jack really want from me? I sat there, trying to process what had just happened. But as I sat there, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was in grave danger. That Jack was going to stop at nothing to get what he wanted. And I had no idea what he was capable of. I sat there, trying to process what had just happened. Jack's words kept echoing in my mind, "I'll get what's mine." What did he mean by that? Did he really think he deserved the settlement? I couldn't understand why he would think that. I had worked hard to get that settlement, and it was mine. But as I sat there, I couldn't shake off the feeling that Jack was going to stop at nothing to get what he wanted. I thought about all the times I had tried to reach out to him, all the times I had tried to make amends. But he had always pushed me away, always rejected me. And now, he was coming after me, demanding that I give him the one thing that I had finally achieved. I felt a surge of anger, a surge of resentment. Why should I give him anything? Why should I give him the settlement? I stood up, deciding that I needed to get out of there. I couldn't just sit around and wait for Jack to come after me. I needed to take action, needed to protect myself. I walked out of the restaurant, my mind racing with thoughts and emotions. I didn't know what Jack was capable of, but I knew that I needed to be prepared. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number, waiting for the person on the other end to pick up. "Hello," a voice said. "It's me," I said. "I need your help. Jack is after me, demanding that I give him the settlement. There was a pause on the other end of the line, and then the person spoke up. I'll take care of it, they said. Don't worry, I'll make sure that Jack doesn't bother you again. I felt a surge of relief, a surge of gratitude. I knew that I could count on this person to help me. They were a friend, a trusted ally. And I knew that they would do whatever it took to protect me. Thank you, I said, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. I owe you one. The person on the other end of the line laughed. You don't owe me anything, they said. Just be careful, okay? Jack is not someone to be trifled with. I nodded, even though they couldn't see me. I will, I said. I'll be careful. I hung up the phone, feeling a sense of determination. I was not going to let Jack push me around, was not going to let him take what was mine. I was going to fight back, was going to protect myself. And I was going to do whatever it took to make sure that Jack didn't bother me again. As I walked away from the restaurant, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being watched. I looked around, but I didn't see anyone. Still, the feeling persisted. I quickened my pace, my heart racing with anticipation. I knew that Jack was not going to give up easily, knew that he was going to keep coming after me. And I was ready for him. I was ready to fight back, was ready to protect myself. I walked for blocks, my senses on high alert. I was waiting for Jack to make his move, was waiting for him to try and take the settlement from me. And when he did, I would be ready. I would fight back, would do whatever it took to protect myself. As I walked, I couldn't help but think about the past. About all the times I had tried to reach out to Jack, all the times I had tried to make amends. But he had always pushed me away, always rejected me. And now, he was coming after me, demanding that I give him the one thing that I had finally achieved. I felt a surge of anger, a surge of resentment. Why should I give him anything? Why should I give him the settlement? I didn't know what the future held, didn't know what Jack was capable of. But I knew that I was ready for him. I was ready to fight back, was ready to protect myself. And I would do whatever it took to make sure that Jack didn't bother me again. As I turned a corner, I saw a figure standing in the shadows. It was Jack, and he was watching me. I felt a surge of adrenaline, a surge of fear. He had found me, had tracked me down. And now, he was going to try and take the settlement from me. I stood my ground, my heart racing with anticipation. I was ready for him, was ready to fight back. And I would do whatever it took to protect myself. You're not going to get away from me, Jack said, his voice low and menacing. I'm going to get what's mine. I smiled, a cold, calculating smile. You're not going to get anything from me, I said. I'm not going to let you take what's mine. Jack sneered, his eyes flashing with anger. We'll see about that, he said. And with that, he lunged at me, his fists flying. I was ready for him, was ready to fight back. And I would do whatever it took to protect myself. I dodged Jack's first punch, but he was relentless. He kept coming at me, his fists flying, his eyes blazing with anger. I defended myself, trying to stay calm, but it was hard. Jack was a big guy, and he was determined to hurt me. I managed to grab his wrist and twist it, trying to make him stop. But he just laughed, his eyes glinting with amusement. You think that's going to stop me? He sneered. I'm not going to let you get away from me that easily. He pulled his wrist free and hit me with a solid punch to the jaw. I stumbled back, my head spinning, but I refused to give up. I knew that if I let Jack win, he would take the settlement and leave me with nothing. I charged at him, my fists flying, and we clashed in a flurry of punches and kicks. I was determined to protect myself, to protect the settlement that was rightfully mine. But Jack was a formidable opponent. He was big and strong, and he had a mean streak a mile wide. I knew that I had to be careful, that I had to use all my wits and cunning to outsmart him. I managed to land a few good punches, but Jack just laughed and kept coming. I was starting to get tired, my arms aching, my head spinning. I knew that I couldn't keep this up for much longer. Just when I thought that Jack was going to overwhelm me, I saw a glimmer of hope. A police car was driving by, and I knew that if I could just hold on for a few more seconds, the officers would see the fight and intervene. I gritted my teeth and dug deep, finding a last burst of energy. I punched Jack with all my might, and he stumbled back, giving me just enough time to shout for help. The police officers leapt out of their car and rushed towards us, their hands on their guns. "Freeze," one of them shouted. "Let's not have any trouble here." Jack's eyes flashed with anger, but he knew that he was beaten. He turned and ran, disappearing into the night. The officers turned to me, their faces concerned. "Are you okay?" one of them asked. I nodded, still panting. "Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks for showing up when you did." The officer nodded. "We've been keeping an eye on you." We knew that Jack was trouble, and we were waiting for him to make his move. I felt a surge of gratitude towards the officers. They had saved me from a potentially disastrous situation. But as I turned to leave, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Jack was standing across the street, his eyes fixed on me with a malevolent glare. He mouthed a single word, "Wait." And then he turned and disappeared into the night, leaving me with a sense of unease and foreboding. I knew that Jack was not going to give up easily. He was going to keep coming after me, keep trying to take the settlement from me. And I knew that I had to be ready. I had to be prepared to defend myself, to protect the settlement that was rightfully mine. I took a deep breath and steeled myself for what was to come. I knew that it was going to be a long and difficult fight, but I was ready. I was ready to take on Jack, to take on whatever he threw my way. And I was determined to emerge victorious. As I walked away from the scene of the fight, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being watched. I knew that Jack was still out there, waiting for his chance to strike. And I knew that I had to be careful. I had to be vigilant. I glanced over my shoulder, but there was no one there. Just the dark, empty streets, stretching out into the night. But I knew that Jack was out there, waiting for me. And I knew that I had to be ready. I walked for blocks, my senses on high alert. I knew that Jack was still out there, waiting for his chance to strike. And I knew that I had to be careful. I had to be vigilant. I glanced over my shoulder, but there was no one there. Just the dark, empty streets, stretching out into the night. But I knew that Jack was out there, watching me. I could feel his eyes on me, boring into my skin. I quickened my pace, my heart racing with anticipation. I didn't know what Jack was capable of, but I knew that I had to be prepared. I had to be ready for anything. As I turned a corner, I saw a figure standing in the shadows. It was a woman, tall and imposing, with a look of determination on her face. She stepped forward, her eyes locked on mine. "You're the one who's been causing all the trouble," she said, her voice low and menacing. I nodded, my heart racing. "Who are you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm someone who's been watching you," she said. "I'm someone who knows all about Jack and his plans." I felt a surge of curiosity. "What do you know?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. The woman smiled, a cold, calculating smile. "I know that Jack is not what he seems," she said. "I know that he's been playing you all along." I felt a surge of shock. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. The woman leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I mean that Jack is not after the settlement for himself," she said. "I mean that he's working for someone else, someone who wants to use you for their own gain." I felt a surge of anger. "Who is it?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. The woman smiled again, a cold, calculating smile. "I'll tell you," she said. "But first, you have to do something for me." I hesitated, unsure of what to do. But something about the woman's words resonated with me. I knew that I had to hear her out, had to know what she had to say. "What do you want me to do?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. The woman leaned in, her eyes locked on mine. "I want you to meet me at the old warehouse on 5th and Main," she said. I want you to meet me there at midnight. I nodded, my heart racing. I'll be there, I said. The woman smiled again, a cold, calculating smile. I knew you would be, she said. And with that, she turned and disappeared into the night, leaving me with more questions than answers. I stood there for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. Who was the woman, and what did she want from me? And what did she mean by saying that Jack was working for someone else? I didn't know, but I was determined to find out. I was determined to get to the bottom of things, to uncover the truth. And I was willing to do whatever it took to get there. I glanced at my watch, my heart racing. It was 11:45. I had 15 minutes to get to the warehouse. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. I didn't know what I would find at the warehouse, but I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead. And I was determined to come out on top. I made my way to the warehouse, my heart racing with anticipation. I didn't know what I would find there, but I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead. As I approached the warehouse, I could feel a sense of unease in the air. The building loomed above me, its windows like empty eyes staring back. I shivered, despite the warmth of the night. I took a deep breath and pushed open the door, my eyes adjusting to the dim light within. The warehouse was cavernous, its walls lined with crates and boxes. I could hear the sound of footsteps echoing off the walls, but I couldn't see anyone. I called out, my voice echoing through the space. Hello? Is anyone here? There was no response. I took a step forward, my eyes scanning the room. And then I saw her. The woman was standing in the shadows, her eyes fixed on me. Welcome, she said, her voice low and husky. I've been waiting for you. I took a step back, my heart racing. Who are you? I demanded. My name is not important, she said. What's important is what I have to tell you. I nodded, my eyes fixed on hers. What do you have to tell me? I asked. The woman smiled, a cold, calculating smile. I have to tell you about Jack, she said. I have to tell you about his plans. I felt a surge of anger. What plans? I demanded. The woman leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper. Jack is working for a man named Victor, she said. Victor is a powerful man, a man with a lot of influence. And he wants the settlement for himself. I felt a surge of shock. Why? I asked. The woman shrugged. I don't know, she said. But I do know that Victor will stop at nothing to get what he wants. I felt a chill run down my spine. What does this have to do with me? I asked. The woman's eyes locked on mine. You're the key to it all, she said. You're the only one who can stop Victor from getting what he wants. I felt a surge of determination. I'll do it, I said. I'll stop him. The woman smiled again, a cold, calculating smile. I knew you would say that, she said. But first, you have to understand the risks. You have to understand what you're up against. I nodded, my heart racing. I understand, I said. But I'm willing to take that risk. The woman nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. I thought you would be, she said. Now, let's get started. And with that, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small folder. This is everything I know about Victor, she said. This is everything I know about his plans. I took the folder, my heart racing. I knew that I was taking a risk, but I was willing to do whatever it took to stop Victor from getting what he wanted. I was willing to do whatever it took to protect myself and my settlement. As I opened the folder and began to read, I felt a sense of trepidation. I knew that I was in for a fight that would be difficult and potentially deadly. But I was ready. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead. And I was determined to come out on top. As I read through the folder, my eyes widened in shock and horror. The extent of Victor's plans was far more sinister than I had ever imagined. He had been manipulating Jack and using him to get to me, to get to the settlement. And he had been using his wealth and influence to cover his tracks and silence anyone who got in his way. I felt a surge of anger and determination. I knew that I had to stop Victor, no matter what it took. I couldn't let him get away with this. I looked up at the woman, my eyes locked on hers. "Thank you," I said, my voice shaking with emotion. "Thank you for telling me the truth." The woman nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "I'm just glad I could help," she said. "But now, you have to be careful. Victor is not a man to be trifled with. He will stop at nothing to get what he wants." I nodded, my heart racing. I knew that I was taking a risk, but I was willing to do whatever it took to stop Victor. I spent the next few days gathering evidence and building a case against Victor. I worked tirelessly, poring over documents and interviewing witnesses. And finally, the day arrived. I stood outside the courtroom, my heart pounding with anticipation. I knew that this was it, the moment of truth. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. The courtroom was packed, but I didn't see Victor anywhere. I looked around, my eyes scanning the room. And then, I saw him. He was sitting in the back, a smug look on his face. I felt a surge of anger, but I kept my cool. I knew that I had to stay focused. The judge entered the room, and the trial began. I presented my case, pouring out all the evidence I had gathered. Victor's lawyer tried to defend him, but it was no use. The evidence was too strong. The judge deliberated for what felt like an eternity. And then, he returned with the verdict. Victor was guilty. He was found guilty of manipulation, extortion, and fraud. I felt a surge of relief and satisfaction. Justice had been served. As Victor was led away in handcuffs, I couldn't help but feel a sense of karma. He had tried to ruin my life, but in the end, he was the one who had been ruined. I turned to the woman, who was standing beside me. "Thank you," I said, my voice shaking with emotion. "Thank you for helping me bring him down." The woman smiled, a warm smile. "You're welcome," she said. "I'm just glad I could help." I nodded, feeling a sense of closure. It was over. It was finally over. I walked out of the courtroom, feeling a sense of peace and satisfaction. I had fought for justice, and I had won. As I walked away from the courthouse, I felt a sense of freedom. I was finally free from the weight of Victor's manipulation. I looked up at the sky, feeling a sense of gratitude. I was grateful for the woman who had helped me bring Victor down. I was grateful for the justice system, which had worked to bring Victor to justice. And I was grateful for myself, for standing up for what was right. I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of closure. It was over. It was finally over. And as I walked away from the courthouse, I knew that I would never forget the lessons I had learned. I would never forget the importance of standing up for what was right. And I would never forget the feeling of satisfaction and relief that came with seeing justice served. I smiled, feeling a sense of peace. It was over. It was finally over.